thought it might be nice to go for a little garden walk this morning. Things are looking really beautiful around here. It's Saturday morning. Nobody else is up yet. So I thought I'd get out in the garden, look around a little bit. It's Leaf's teepee. He built it this week. A little place to hang out in. The problem is that this whole area right here is kind of like a bog. It didn't used to be. It was only in wet weather, but now it seems like this area stays wet all the time. I think we've got a kind of a new spring developing under there, so we put it right in the bog area. Our first poppy opened yesterday, and it's massive. Look at how big this next one is. Like, they're really big buds. So pretty. We've got milkweed coming up everywhere. It is from this bed back here, but I had no idea it spread so easily, so I've been picking it and eating it. There used to be a thought that it was poisonous, but it kind of stemmed from that book, Stalking the Wild Asparagus from the 70s, where the author stated it had to be washed and boiled a bunch of times before you eat it, but people think maybe he was eating dogbane by mistake, and that's why it was so bitter. The chamomile has started blooming. These are big too. Look at how big these are. Those are big chamomile blooms. And our foxglove. And in here, Kaya told me the other day she thought that everything in here was just weeds because it looks weedy. But it's not. That's some bergamot flowers and my milkweed. This, I've got 2 zucchinis in here. But all of this is like cover crop. And I just leave it in there until I need to take it out because it's good for the ground. We've got some chard and some kale in here, which none of that is doing very good. I think I need to replenish some of the soil and compost in that bed. Some lovely lettuces and some little onions. I don't know what I'm going to do with some of these beds back here. These are all covered in cover crop right now. This used to be my vegetable garden area, but I stopped growing so many vegetables because they just didn't grow well here. This is all strawberries. You can see a few red ones coming in. And our pear trees, which are looking really good. Let's go to the front and see what's happening there. The rose is looking amazing this year, and it smells so good every time I walk through the door. These are old, I don't know if you'd call them antique roses or old-fashioned roses that a friend gave me when we first moved in the house. And it was moved a bunch of times because it kept getting put in an area where construction would happen. And so I finally moved it over here a couple of years ago, and this is the first year it's bloomed like this. It has bloomed in the past, but nothing this wild. It's looking great. So we've got some plums and some peaches and some nectarines. Those are all looking good. You can see the baby peaches on there. And our hawthorn tree, which is really big, is blooming for the first time this year, so I'm excited for some hawthorn berries. There's some grapes back up there that are looking good. They usually get hit by a grape beetle that munches all the tips, and then they don't put out a lot of fruit. But this year I've been watching like a hawk and getting rid of all the little beetles. This is our blueberry patch. We have 10, 11 blueberry bushes, and they're looking really good. Maybe another month, and we'll have some blueberries, usually sometime in June. These beds are looking really lovely. I have a few tomatoes and basil in here, but mostly it's flowers and herbs. Some more roses. That's my tansy right there, and it's kind of going crazy. And I have one little clary sage that I'm hoping will bloom this year. There's comfrey and lemon balm and horseradish in that bed, and then behind it is my rhubarb. Everybody loves rhubarb. I actually don't really care for the taste. Not that I don't care for the taste, I just don't think it tastes like much. I use it for dyeing. I keep the leaves for mordant, and the stems can be used for color. And this is where the madder bed was last year. I finally cleared it out, and I'm putting in some rosemary and lavender. Hopefully this whole bed will become rosemary and lavender, and that way the bees will have some lovely flowers right in front of them, and they don't have to fly very far. I redid these couple of beds yesterday, 2 days ago. This whole bed used to be blackberries, and it just didn't do well. You can see there's one left. And this one was wineberries, or some people call them wild raspberries. And there's still a bunch back here. But what I decided to do is I put down cardboard and then put down some new compost. And I'm going to plant some Seneca red stalker corn, which I learned through my dye garden along thread on Ravelry, that it is a corn that the husks and stalk are actually red and can be used for dyeing. And the actual corn that grows is not just beautiful, but tasty. So I'm going to try growing that. And since I'm doing corn, I'm also going to do beans and squash. And I'm doing some really cool looking beans and squash for fun. Yeah, and the raspberries are almost ready. We're starting to get some flowers coming out on them. You can see little raspberries coming out. Let's go around this way. We'll go by the bees. Since it's early, they're just getting started. Just starting to come out. Here we've got some more milkweed and a little ginkgo back there and some other fun plants. This was a little garden that some friends of ours had when they lived in my cabin. And so it's been fun exploring the things that come up in here. Some of these actually, you can barely see them, but there's one right here that looks a lot like indigo. And I asked what it was, and he said it was a type of plant that does produce indigo, just not in big quantities. But I've got 2 of them there, and another really big one over here. There's one that's probably 6 feet tall, so I got to figure out what variety it is so I can look it up. I've done lots of work, you can see on the gardens in front of my office. We have some black hollyhocks to use for dyeing and printing. We've got some calendula and some marigolds. This is a lemon verbena. I put in things here that are good for dyeing or for tea. These 2 are actually tea plants, like you would get black tea from. This is anise hyssop. Well, these aren't for dyeing or for tea. This is just because it's a good place, and Leaf wanted a place for his oriental lilies. Some chamomile. That's a butterfly bush. This whole bed is going to be full and beautiful. And then over here, most of the stuff is just seeded. I have some hibiscus and some black knight scabiosa, which puts some really beautiful dark purple flowers out and always makes me think of Harry Potter. Wingardium scabiosa! Yeah. So there's some lupine, some blue turmeric back here, some poppies. This is a little sumac plant, and just some other things I threw in there. And I think all of this is going to be really beautiful later on this summer. It'll be full. I also made a little hillbilly garden here with an old wheelbarrow that didn't have a wheel anymore, and just put in some more calendula and poppies because I had lots of extra seedlings left. And then there's cookie dough. Here's my apricot tree. Look at this. I'm very excited for this. Usually it's the first one to bloom. Oh, there's some deer in the woods. I can't see them, but I hear them. They're being loud down there. So yeah, the apricot's always the first one to bloom when the weather starts warming up, and then usually we have a big frost and they all die. And this year we had a very warm late winter, and it's covered in apricots. So this is also one of the first ones to be ready. Probably next month we'll have some bright red apricots all over this tree, or bright orange apricots. And this right next to it is the elder, and it's doing really well. It's just starting to put out its flowers, but I trimmed it back a lot this winter to try and give a chance for the new growth to come up and cut out some of the old growth. So this whole from here all the way to the apricot, this whole thing is elder, and I planted 3 new varieties on the other side of the yard, just to give them some good cross-pollination. Here we have some more calendula, and up here these beds need a little work. This one right here is going to be a lot of lupine, and I'm not sure what else. This will be a lot of indigo, and I've got some dahlias coming up there, some dinner plate dahlias that get like 6 to 10 inches and really big and beautiful. And then back here I'm going to take that up and throw down some Dyer's coreopsis again. This beautiful tree right here is persimmon. And then look here, we have some cherries starting. This poor tree has had a hard time. You can see it's missing a lot of its main stem. It got climbed on by a bear a couple years ago, and you can see it's not a big tree, and he just broke the whole top off, and it's been having a hard time surviving, but it's still putting out a few branches with cherries on it. Going under the persimmon. And here's our grapes. And these are doing really good this year. See, baby grapes. Little baby grapes. These are just champagne grapes, so they could be used for table or for wine, but we just eat them. And then these are the 2 big hazelnut trees, and they are doing really well. They put out a lot of hazelnuts last year. We've been trying to trim them back a bit so that they don't get too overwhelming, but they're still growing really big. All right, well, there's what's going on in the garden right now. Maybe I'll take this out and set it up, and we can talk a little bit about knitting. Good morning again, everyone. I hope you are all doing well. It's Saturday, middle of May. I know that last Monday was the 11th because that's when our baby chicks hatched. We have 13 baby chicks. We had 14, but one of them died unexpectedly. It happens. I think sometimes after they have absorbed, it takes them about 3 days to absorb the yolk that they after they're born. They have a few days where they can live off of their stores, basically, as they learn how to peck and gather food. And I feel like sometimes around day 4 or 5, you'll see a loss in chicks that maybe didn't develop properly. So we lost one, unfortunately, but the other ones right now are really healthy. If some of you saw my stories, I had posted about one of the little chicks we're calling Smoky Quartz, because we're naming them all after gems and minerals. And Smoky Quartz is what's called a golden cuckoo Marans. So she is a French breed that will lay dark brown eggs. And she had what's called spraddle leg, which is where their little legs go out like this and they don't support them very well. It wasn't bad. Sometimes they can just be totally flat with their legs sideways out. Hers wasn't too bad, so we banded it up with a little bit of vet tape. And after 24 hours, they were strong enough that she was then able to walk around really well, so that was good. So anyway, she's doing really well. She's still a lot smaller than the other ones, and I wonder if she may have some bantam breed in her, which means, she'd be half the size of a regular chicken. But we'll see. I'm excited to see how they how they all grow. I'll give you a video later on. Maybe after this I'll do a little video when we take them out to play. We often take them outside and put them in the grass and let them run around in the sun for a little while. And they'll follow our fingers if we scratch and peck in the grass. They'll run over like there's something there, like our fingers are a mama hen trying to teach them what to eat. It's really cute. So, I hope you liked the little garden tour. I just wanted to show you guys what's going on around here because it's very green and there's a lot of stuff growing, and that's been really nice. I'm excited about all the possibilities. I think that's what gets me in the spring, is just what could be, you know, with a seed and some soil and a little water and sunshine. So I'm looking forward to all the stuff growing. I had forgotten to point out what I'm looking at right here. It's so the house is directly in front of me. I've got a beautiful rhododendron blooming back there, so I thought I'd put that in the background. But what I'm looking at is a massive rose patch and mint. I didn't plant either of them. They were here when we moved in, and I tried to carefully keep them from getting knocked over by construction or anything when we were building the house. And they just keep growing bigger and bigger every year. So we've got a massive mint patch. I think it's apple mint. It's a fuzzy mint. And then some old apothecary roses, which they're not what would be considered the beautiful roses with many, many petals. They maybe have 6 petals. But the scent is intoxicating, and we use them a lot for medicine and for food. We make strawberry rose petal jam, stuff like that. So yes, let's talk about knitting for a little bit. I want to show you guys what I've been up to. So you see I'm wearing my Andromeda shawl. It did come out last week on Mother's Day. I released it on Mother's Day, so almost a week ago. No, I released it the week before Mother's Day, and I had a coupon going so it's $6 on Ravelry, but I had a coupon to make it $2, and since those of you who may not follow me on Instagram may not have seen that, I want to extend that offer to you also. If you need it and you prefer to have the pattern for $2, that's totally fine. The coupon code is Mayflowers, and I'll put it right down here and down in the down bar so you guys can see it, and that's available to you now, so you guys can get the shawl first for $2 instead of $6 if you need to. I really like it. I kind of want to do it in a worsted weight yarn or something bigger, so that I can have like a really big couch throw made out of it. But one thing that I'm doing also out of this pattern is a hat, a cap, I guess you'd call it. So I'm working on the Andromeda cap, and that pattern will probably come out at the end of this month or beginning of June. Both of these have been both of these have been tech edited. This one is also being test knit. I didn't ask for test knitters for this one because it's so big. I figured it'd be September before I got the pattern out. But this is going to be the Andromeda cap. This one was done in, I think it's the Weekend wool. Yeah, Green Mountain Spinnery's Weekend wool. And you can see there's still that spiral on the top. And then you continue down the sides, adding the extra slip stitches. So this one's a worsted weight. And then I did this one in some hand spun and some Spincycle yarn dyed in the wool. And then this one's a sport weight. And there's the spiral on the top. So the pattern is written so you can do it in any weight yarn for any size head. You start in the center with the 8 stitches, and then you spiral out, building it to as big as you want. And because you are working with your gauge, you can use any size yarn you want to. So I'm doing one other one because I really liked how the Spincycle looked. So this one is just the start of the Spincycle yarn. I've got a second one. Let's see. Oh, I don't have the names of them. I'll have it, of course, in the pattern which ones I'm using. But this one is going to go to pink, blue, and purple and pink. And of course I'm knitting them all to fit my head. They always get stolen anyway. We all have similar size heads. So if Leith likes it, he steals it. If Toby likes it, he steals it. So there'll be 3 new hats, so I'm sure someone can find one they like. All right. So yeah, I'm going to have, I will have that available on Ravelry sometime in the next few weeks. And hopefully you guys like it. It's a fun knit, and because you can do it in any weight yarn and hand spun, because you're working with whatever gauge you get from the yarn, it's totally flexible, and you can make it, you know, for a doll head or a very large head. So yeah, exciting. The other thing that I finished, and I told you guys I would probably be casting this on, I talked about the Mason-Dixon knitting field guide number 14, Refresh, and how it had a hat in here called Arcade Cap by Carol Feller. That's this one. And I just thought it was super cute, so I took Hey Mama Wolf's Schafwool yarn. This is dyed with madder root, and I made one for myself. And there it is. I really like it. I think it's super cute. It fits well, and I like the Hey Mama Wolf yarn is a 3-ply, and it's really round, and so it shows off the cables really nicely. So this was a super quick knit. It's brim up, but I actually did the brim and then turned it inside out so I could knit everything instead of purling it. I don't have a problem with purling, I'm just a lot faster at knitting, so I decided I wanted to do it that way. And then when I would get to the cables, I would do them opposite. But really, it was easy enough to just kind of turn it inside right and look and say, okay, yeah, it's supposed to go this way, and so I'd make sure the cables went in the right direction. But I basically knit the whole thing inside out, which was fun. So there you go. That is the Arcade Cap by Carol Feller in Refresh, the Mason-Dixon Knitting Field Guide. That's it for the knitting. I guess 3.5 hats is a lot. The other thing that I've been doing when I had a little break from my knitting, when I finished one of the hats and I didn't cast another one on yet, is I started on the Mushroom Girl. If you've been watching my podcast for a while, you may remember that I've talked about Cozy Blue, who is Liz. She's a friend of mine who's local, and she does really cool embroidery stuff. She makes really beautiful patterns, super cute, mushrooms and animals and fairy tale kind of stuff. So I got this one from her a while ago, and I hadn't started it yet, and now you can see I'm almost finished. I'll bring it closer so you can see. So here she is. I've worked on her hat. I did that in 2 different colors of red. And I've done her face and her shirt, and I put in little gold threads to make it look kind of like a necklace. The hair's the only thing I have left, and I'm really not sure how I'm going to do it. I want it to look really cool. I was thinking about colonial knots, if you know anything about embroidery, done really loose, which is what Liz did on one of her versions. But I was also thinking about this other thing that makes it look like spirals, like Shirley Temple spirals. So we'll see. I'll get started on that, I think, after I finish my hat. I am keeping this in a new bag that I have by Daisy Lane Designs, and I just have to show this to you. It's so cute. If you don't follow her on Instagram, she's been doing a lot of patchwork stuff lately. She does bags, but she's been showing off tutorials and stuff on how she puts all her little patchwork stuff together, and it's very cute. So you should take a look at her. So let's see, back in January, I guess, yeah, on New Year's Day, our family took a hike out in the woods and picked up a bunch of lichen that was on the ground. And some of you remember that I tested some of it to see what kind of color I would get, and it gave me a very deep orange color when I tested it. You scrape a little bit of the top off and you wipe it with a tiny bit of bleach, and it flashed bright orange red. So I have had that in my bathroom, sitting in a jar for 4 months, and shaking it every day and making sure that I extract as much color as possible. And I finished that dye experiment. I'm gonna do a whole video on how it was done. So if you want to watch the video and you don't want to see the color, then don't look, because I'm gonna show you the color. It's not impressive, but here's what I did. So this is the final color that I got out of the lichen dye. Here is the original. So you can see it's a pale pink. I could probably get a color similar to this out of avocado pits pretty easily, and it wouldn't take 4 months. But it was a fun experiment, and part of what made it fun was that I used my own urine. I didn't want to have to go out and buy ammonia when I could create my own, so I peed in a bucket for a while and then waited until the urine got stale, and that's when it goes up to about 9.5 pH and becomes more ammonia, and I used that to extract the color. So yes, I did use that dye to create this color. It really didn't smell like much. It was kind of like a campsite bathroom. I mean, once this is soaked and washed, it doesn't smell like anything but wool. So anyway, there's the color, and I will be putting out that tutorial pretty soon just to show you how I did it, and you guys can see all the details. So I'll probably over dye this, I think. It's an okay color. It's kind of drab, I think. I might put something more vibrant in it. The last thing I wanted to tell you guys about is upcoming classes. I know that everything's been canceled recently, and things are starting to open back up. As of right now, I do have a class scheduled in Virginia at the Knittin' Coop in Salem, Virginia, at the end of July, and hope to have some classes on my homestead in the late summer and early fall. I hope to be up at Prado de Lana in New Hampshire in September, I believe it is. And I am also scheduled to be a vendor at SAF this year. That'll be my first time being a vendor, especially at a big festival. So I'm super excited about all of those, and I hope they happen, but we're just playing it by ear. I want everybody to be safe, myself and you guys, and so we're not going to hold classes if it looks like there's risk. So I guess keep in touch with me through Instagram, through my website, which is ninjachickens.org, and you'll see if the classes are still happening. If it looks like I'm able to have classes on the homestead this summer and fall, then I will probably start announcing those sometime in June. We're going to have indigo classes and some ecoprinting classes. So I think that's it. I hope you guys have an amazing May. I will probably see you in June, and we'll take a peek at the chicks after this so you can see them, and talk to you guys later. Love you all. Bye. Well, a few days ago, our new babies arrived, so I wanted to introduce you guys to them. We have 14 of them, one rooster.
Here he is. Here's the rooster.
He has been named. His name,
Obsidian.
yes, Mr. Obsidian Cluckers, or Sir Obsidian Cluckers. Toby always gets rights to name the roosters, and he often names them something silly. So since Leaf and I decided we wanted each of the babies to be named after some kind of a stone or gem, Leaf picked out Obsidian, and Toby decided on Mr. Cluckers. So anyway, we're giving them a little time outside in the sunshine, and letting them scratch around the grass. And
Second time they've been out here today.
yep, it's their second time because it's a really warm day. So they're doing really well. There's almost always one or two that are a little funky at first, it seems like, and this little tiny one that just ran out here.
This one.
Yep.
She loves to be held though.
She is, we're calling her Smoky Quartz. She is what's called a golden cuckoo Marans, so she's going to lay some dark brown eggs. But when we first got her, she wasn't balancing well, and her legs were kind of splayed apart. It's called spraddle leg. So we actually used some vet wrap tape and kind of taped her legs closer together so that the joints would strengthen a little bit. And now she's doing great. And there's one other one that actually the little one that she's standing right next to, the little dark one. That
The black one with a spot on it.
Yeah, the black one with a spot on his head that kind of looks like a little runt. But they're all doing well, so that's good.
These are the twins.
We have a bunch of different varieties, some heritage breeds and rare breeds. All that
Most
should,
of them are rare breeds.
yeah, they should lay light brown, super dark brown, green, and blue eggs. So we're excited.
We've never had a green egg layer before.
Nope, we've never had an olive egger is what they're called. But this year we'll have to.